All right. According to my PowerShell watch, oh, it went blurry. It just has a background that says get date, and that's an attempt to be PowerShell funny in like a dad joke sort of a way. So welcome everyone to the February PowerShell community call I'll be hosting today. I just wanted to make sure it's clear to everyone that we are recording the call, and this will be posted on the PowerShell community YouTube channel, typically about a week following the meeting. Please do remember throughout the meeting our code of conduct, which is linked here in the chat. But we ask everyone to be respectful and to really try to improve everybody else's lives. You can also go through our contribution guide and take a look at that on GitHub and understand how to contribute to PowerShell. And I can tell you one of the things that we really, really appreciate right now is reaching out and helping with things like docs and helping create content even outside of these repos so that people who are new to PowerShell or who are growing in their career can learn from your experience. So the agenda is posted in the discussion channel. It just happens to be discussion item 25,000. So that's a nice round number. And we're going to kick off our agenda with a note from the Jason Helmick about an upcoming, or sorry, a blog that is going live for the 7.5 announcement.
Hey, thanks, Michael. As a matter of fact, let's kind of continue with Michael's thing on this. First of all, we got 7.5 out the door. Yay! Show some love. I'm going to show you the blog. A couple of months ago, Sean Wheeler and I stopped by towards the end of the year and did some demos from the upcoming release of 7.5. 7.5 is now out. It's our stable release. Let me share my screen. And I kind of want to continue the theme that Michael started here about how much we appreciate your contributions. This is a great example of that. If I can get the right screen to share. Here we go. We'll try that. So this is the blog, and you can go out to the PowerShell team blog site and take a look at the blog for 7.5. An important note here, this is now based on .NET 9, and also an important note, 7.2 support has ended, so now's a good time to be shifting to a newer version. In this release, and this is where I want to continue on with kind of Michael's theme here, you're going to notice something in this release, and Sean and I had pointed this out a couple of months ago, and it really is incredible to us. You will also notice this. We have a link in here to go to the What's New page for 7.5. You really see this also on this What's New page. Look at all of the names of the folks not from Microsoft that contributed these features into the project. This is really incredible. We've had a huge community outpouring in a lot of different areas like IntelliSense and the engine, stuff like that. And a lot of really useful improvements to the project have been made by you, the community. So along with contributing to things like docs and helping us with content areas, you have been helping us in the project and building out a great project. So here's what we'd like. This is our stable release with 7.5. Please use this in production and give us some feedback on it. Use it in production if you're not bound to an LTS. Speaking of an LTS, we also are currently working on, and the folks on this call have probably already seen us start to ship. We're working on 7.6 and we're shipping out the previews. Now 7.6 is going to be our next LTS release. So I know it sounds like we're always concerned about stability, but as we approach the LTS, we'd really like it if you can try to, it's a preview, so you're not going to really use it in production, but if you could put this into a test environment and throw some workloads at it, help us ensure that the stability is reaching the levels that we want for LTS. And the plan for the release of 7.6 is pretty much the similar plan that we always have. I'm thinking that towards the end of the year, we'll do our 7.6 release. However, keep in mind, we always release based on quality, so that may change a little bit, given a month or two in there. But in the meantime, go out and enjoy 7.5. Take a look at all the contributions that folks have made and some of the really useful things that have been added to the project. And we look forward to your feedback. So as always, try it out and let us know what you think. Thanks, Michael.
I was just talking to myself on mute. Thank you, Jason. That is awesome. Next on the agenda, I see Andy, but I don't know if he's on the call yet. He might be in a room with somebody if they're sharing a conference room. Why don't we skip ahead? Sydney, if you're available now, why don't we go ahead and talk about the gallery? And if Andy joins later, we'll come back.
Sure, sounds good. This announcement will be pretty quick, but we have discovered that there are some ongoing issues with our email relay system for the PowerShell gallery. So we are asking folks that if you are looking to contact gallery support, rather than using the UI in the gallery, just directly send us an email. So I'll put the email in chat, but it's PSG, like PowerShell Gallery admin at Microsoft.com. So you can just send an email directly there and we'll be able to service any issues you may have seen. The other issue related to the gallery that I was also going to mention and make folks aware of is that we have been seeing intermittent issues with the searching index on the PowerShell gallery. So if this is happening and you go to the gallery, it's going to tell you that there are 0 packages available. We are invested heavily in trying to resolve this issue. It's a bit of a complex one, so I can't give an immediate ETA, but we are aware of it and taking it very seriously and doing our best to find a resolution. I think that's it for me. I'll pass it back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Sydney. Next up, we've got Mr. Sean Wheeler. I did ping Andy, by the way, to see if he can join. But Sean, if you'd like to take it away and give us an update on what's happening in the world of docs, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so let me drop some links here in the chat and share my screen. Of course, with the new releases, we have updated release notes for 7.6 and for 7.5, and we've propagated all of the commandlet reference for 7.6 as well. 7.6 is currently built on .NET 9, just like 7.5, but once it becomes available, .NET 10 will be the next LTS release of .10. So the plan is to build 7.6 on that as well. So there's that. I also want to talk about what other new content we have and call out some more community folks. We have a new article about comments that was contributed by GitHub user Surfing Old Elephant. Really appreciate that. Surfing Old Elephant contributed 4 pull requests in this last month and opened 5 issues. Has been contributing some good content both through the issues and through updates in PRs. I also want to call out Ari Hein. He's been a monster submitting multiple PRs and continues to do so, doing a ton of cleanup work, just fixing spelling errors and formatting issues and really tightening things up. Not a lot of not real changes to the content, but certainly improving the quality of the docs, making things easier for us to maintain going forward. Really appreciate help like this from the community. The comments article, let me go over there and show you what that's all about. This was an article he proposed to document how PowerShell does comments. We talk about it in a lot of different places, but there was never one location that summed everything up. And I think the important part here is most people understand the various comments, but there are some special use cases like comment-based help, the pound requires directive. It's used for signature blocks for signed content and so on. Also, it's worth noting that you can put comments in your regular expressions. So that's a way to document your regular expressions that can be so hard to understand, as well as JSON. So nice contribution there. While I've got it, I want to call on Mike Robbins. He has some updates about Azure PowerShell docs. Mike, are you there?
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So one of the new documents we published a few days ago is the impact of MFA on Azure PowerShell and automation scenarios. The key here is if you're using a Microsoft Intra user identity for automation, whether it's with Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, or really any automation, you need to take action. You really should be using a managed identity, a service principal, or a federated identity. And this article will give you more information. I'm going to drop some links in the chat. So then also for Get AZ Access Token, and it's the bottom portion of this article that we've added a section. So the default output for Get AZ Access Token will be changing from string to secure string. And then of course, we release a new release each month. It's Azure PowerShell now with all the GA and preview modules is like 188 modules. So it's almost 8,000 commands. I would recommend taking a look at the release notes. And I dropped the link. There's an aka.ms link where you can always access the latest Azure PowerShell documentation. And that's all I had.
All right, thanks,
Awesome.
Mike. And I'll hand it back to you, Michael.
Oh, thanks, Sean. Both of you are always moving the ball so far for every single one of these calls. There's so much docs content to talk about, so that's always absolutely awesome. Andy is going to be joining us. He is sorting some things out with his puppy right now, and the PowerShell community is absolutely puppy friendly. So we're going to give him some time, and he'll be joining us, or they'll be joining us here in a little bit. But why don't we go ahead with Steve Lee? If you want to talk, there was some discussion. There was a couple of PRs posted in the discussion for this call. You might want to take a quick look at and maybe talk about.
So rather than talking about specific PRs here, let me talk a bit about how the community can really help the PowerShell team out. All right. Let me just, like right now, there's 139 pull requests and 984 issues. And by the way, I do want to thank everyone who already is participating in reviewing pull requests and also responding to issues, right? That's been a great help. Our team has not grown in size, but the work that we have to do has grown, right? So our team, especially focused on the PowerShell side, has been focusing a lot on compliance, securing our supply chain and things of that sort. So these may not be things you see directly, but it is helping ensure that our product is more secure and is better for you. What I think what would really help, other than having people maybe help review some of the pull requests to see if there's any kind of obvious design or coding issues, but also just, if there's a pull request that does impact you or you really think is valuable, I think if everyone can just give like a little thumbs up on the PR, that would help us identify how to prioritize our efforts to review these things, right? Like we do appreciate people contributing, but it's kind of gone beyond our ability to review them. And having more pull requests at this time is actually going to make things worse. So I would say, not that I don't want you to submit a pull request, but I think rather than just trying to submit a pull request, I don't want to just be in a backlog that's going to get like a year old and get complaints later. I think it might be more helpful just to at least help us identify, help us work through the backlog. Let's get the PRs down to a more reasonable number. I don't know what that is right now. And help us prioritize by, identifying which PRs. So for example, if there's a regression, I think that's probably the top priority other than security. Security we handle separately anyways via MSRC. But if there's like a regression or a blocker that's being fixed via PR, please identify those. If there's like a nice have feature that you think would really move the product forward, again, give those a thumbs up, and then we'll try to evaluate those. Again, we're trying to dedicate some time per week, which is not limited to that day, but Mondays is where there's a lot of efforts across the different projects, like OpenSSH to look at the repo, PowerShell, of course, DSC and stuff like that. So, James, you have your hand up?
I mean, yes, if I can get off mute. Am I off mute?
Yes.
Cool. So yes, there is currently a regression that is a little bit deeply frustrating.
Are you talking about the one that you have in chat?
Yes, I am talking about the one that I have in chat.
All right. I don't think we want to take the
This,
call here to talk about that. Why don't we have a
yeah,
discussion or issue open? Because I think there's going to be a difference of opinion. And I think the language working group is the ones that need to make a decision on what is the thing we want to do going forward for that.
sure, which actually brings up another thing. The
Sure.
language working group has had outstanding applicants for a very long time. There has been no touchback on that. There has been no kind of touchback on any of the PRs already submitted. It's great to kind of ask for the help with the regressions and the triage. The problem ends up being in terms of end-to-end communication and involvement. Every time so far the community has been trying to help, it has been not effective because it has not actually been able to move across the finish line. So it would be really great if A, we can try to fix the process and get some more community involvement. B, we can try to do some more proactive outreach. C, we can start including some community modules in your test passes and frameworks so that breaks like this don't happen. And D, the PowerShell team should be more actually willing to accept people's help, not just say they want people's help.
So James,
that
you have to
distinction make
recognize
sense?
that there is a saying, too many cooks in the kitchen, right? So at some point, I'm not saying about you specifically, right? I want in general, like there has to be some limit on the number of people, otherwise decisions aren't going to get made. I do see Patrick's on the call. I'm not going to call him out, but I think he's on the language working group, so I want him to take an action item to review any submissions for joining, and they should make those. They should have those discussions and make those decisions, and hopefully we can at least clear that backlog out if there is a backlog in that sense. I do see Jordan have a question in the comments about how do you bring attention. So again, easy wins, a little bit harder. I mean, like, well, here's what I'll say. Like, sometimes a 1-line or 3-line change seems like an easy win, but anyone who's worked in software for enough times know like that can also have other side effects that are not apparent until it's shipped, right? So not everything that is by lines of code is by default an easy win. I would still say for now, let's see. So use the thumbs up if PR is important to you, whether it is something you care about or something that's impacting you. I think for easy or small stuff, I'm gonna have to talk to the team, and I'm hoping some of the PMs could step up and help us identify for engineering which ones those might be. So my goal has always been for the community day for the PowerShell team is to say, hey, we're not gonna just look at really hard ones because that takes forever. We're also not going to look at easy ones because then the hard ones never get attention. So we want to have a balance between those two buckets. But we need to kind of get some assistance on how to identify which ones we should focus on. So I'll take it as an action.
Yeah.
Don't have an answer right now, other than my suggestion.
Well, that's again the thing. It's like you're asking for us to help you determine this triage. It's hard to get anybody's traction on issues. I'm not sure how we should help you determine this triage.
No, but I mentioned one of the benefits of GitHub is that we can query against reactions, right? So what is not going to help is having everyone comment and put a +1 because that doesn't inform me unless I spend the time to go into every issue. And again, that's not going to happen, right? That's not going to scale. So I think for now,
neither is
for now, let's just try to use the reactions because we can query against that, and we can use that as a way just to identify, hey, we're going to try to look at these first. I'm not saying that we're not going to try to look at everything, but everything means it could take a long time.
Okay. I have one other suggestion. Could we possibly make the community review time open so that people who are actually waiting on their PR could advocate for their PR in the community review time?
My hesitation is now there may be a queue of 10 to 20 people, and that doesn't necessarily help. I think what may be interesting, though, is having... Let me think about this, okay? But I'm just brainstorming here, so I'm not proposing anything yet. But one thing that may help, again, it's going to be challenged for different time zones across the world, right? Which is, hey, if there's a PR that we identified and the author of that PR is on a call, that will actually speed things up because we can talk through in real time the issues and get it worked on, right? Rather than having this back and forth that takes a week, a month, a year, whatever the case may be. So that's something that might be interesting we could look into.
Yeah, I think even having 10 or 20 people show up for the community might be its own sign of support. And seeing
It's a sign of support, but it's not going to get
those
stuff
10 or
done.
among those 10 or 20, you'd also get some stack ranking of the ones that are there. So you get a feedback cycle on somebody's PR from the other people that showed up.
So James, I like your enthusiasm and ideas, but having multiple layers of bureaucracy is probably going to slow things down. And I do see Ryan has his hand up, so let's give him a little bit of time here.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I had a thought on this last year when we were looking at how many issues were open and how many were constantly getting a +1 or can we come back to this, about looking at doing maybe a regular call from what would be not just the wider team, but a community-led call for issue triaging. So that would be, say, once a week or once a month, where we can pull in a group of us. It doesn't have to involve all the team, but it can involve people that can have the access to be able to push things into the different working groups. This would allow for, say, something that's been stuck for a year in a PR to get a little bit more traction and then grow up the chain. Doesn't add a lot more effort, I don't think, but it would be probably be an area that would help.
Again, I like all the different ideas. I think maybe rather than using up the entirety of this call here for this, let me create a discussion on the repo, and I will paste a link into the chat in a second after I'm done here. And let's just discuss it that way. You know, I want to kind of at least go broad now for ideas, and we'll try a few things and we'll see what works. I'm open to new ideas.
I have one quick riff on Ryan's idea, which I like quite a bit. If the user
5
groups
seconds.
that are already operating, if the user groups that are already operating would dictate 10 minutes of their time that is normally Hangout to helping review and triage PowerShell issues, that might go away.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start
that is
trying
a
to do
cool
that in my
idea.
user group, and I would encourage others to do the same.
Just
That is a
adding
cool
very
idea.
quickly on that one, with the groups kind of being in a little bit more of a hibernation state over the last couple of years, I'm expecting this year we will have more groups kick off. I'm looking to try and do more UK time zone centric stuff, which will work quite well for the EU community and some of the the APAC region.
Yeah.
So,
And Ryan, as the meetups hopefully start happening again, I want to make sure we renew our offer that we're always open to virtually joining, you know, and helping out with discussion or doing some demos or whatever it might be, to help, especially as we sort of like start reinvigorating those meetups. If having sort of like in the agenda, oh, so and so is going to join and talk about a project they're working on. If that would help with attendance, then that would be possibly something we can help, you know, contribute.
That leads on to a very interesting point that I put in about should we just create all of the monthly agenda items for this community call as discussions already, so that way they're already pre-loaded. We can then put out things like Reddit posts, tweets, skeets, LinkedIn, to be able to get more people coming to this call, or at least having visibility of this call and putting in things for the community to discuss.
Yeah, I like that idea. I don't, you know, there doesn't seem to be a big reason not to create that earlier, or possibly even stage the next few.
Because I really love the fact it was 25,000 was the number for the discussion, and it would have been fantastic if we could have like 25.1 for January 25.2, February, so on and so forth. Because we like stability.
It just happened to work out. Sometimes you
Yeah.
get lucky, right? Yeah, I like that idea. Which brings up a point we don't have in the agenda. March is likely to be the time zone call, where we do one a bit later so that it's more friendly to people in the APAC region. I don't know if we've committed to that yet, but we should like start the discussion and maybe get some feedback on, if that's still of interest to people, having the meeting at a time that's friendly, to the Pacific, to the Asia Pacific time zone. So, yeah, we should get that going. I think that's a really good idea. Why don't we ask Sydney to jump back in and talk a little bit about the PowerShell Summit North America, which is not too far off. And then I see Andy has joined us. They can take the floor following Sydney, and then we'll call it a day.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate all of the energy around wanting to make the PowerShell community function better. So I appreciate all the feedback there, but wanted to let you know that a bunch of us are going to be at PowerShell Summit North America, which is coming up in about 6 weeks or so, I think, at the beginning of April. It's in Bellevue, so it's in our neck of the woods. So we always love to join and spend as much of the week there as we can. I believe the schedule is already up for it, so you can see what sessions our team will be providing, and then as well as amazing community members. So yeah, thanks, Stephen, for linking, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. And Stephen is also planning on being at PowerShell Conference Europe. So we should have good representation across all these upcoming events, and definitely looking forward to all of them. Andy, how's your puppy?
He's hanging in there, but there's a lot of early morning emergencies now as he's aging, unfortunately. Yeah, so sorry, I was dealing with that this morning. But let me get my screen shared over here. We may have talked about this at the last meeting a little bit, that it was coming. Oh, requesting to bypass system privately. Yes, allow. Hopefully I can see that it can see my screen. So did it share?
Yes, it did.
Yay, sweet. That this was coming, and I cross-checked dates, and it wasn't out yet. But since the last community call, we have actually gotten version 2025.0.0. It's in the first stable version of the VS Code extension out. We're really proud of this one because it was a lot of stability improvements. I mean, that has been true for a while. We have really been trying to drill down on quality for the extension and Microsoft and PowerShell in general. But I actually really loved working again with Justin Grode on this because we have just solved a bunch of problems. There was a large class of bugs. Forgive me if I've repeated this, but it was just so annoying as somebody who had to maintain this and had to deal with a lot of these issues always coming in. People would use Windows PowerShell with the extension, which is, we support it as best we can. Literally, we do support it as a best effort basis, but we don't have that assembly load context, ability to separate out dependencies from each other in the extension when using Windows PowerShell. And for some reason, way back when in the history of this extension, a large dependency had been brought into PowerShell editor services to handle logging, called Serolog. And turns out that clashed with a lot of other modules that would get loaded up. So if you were one of those users trying to use the PowerShell extension with the specific extension terminal and you're using Windows PowerShell, well, you know what? Based on the number of bug reports I got, very often you would want to load another module that wanted a different version of Serolog, and they would clash. And for a long time, our answer was, well, we can't fix that because we don't have assembly load context. It's not a technology in the desktop version of .NET. And finally, we said to ourselves, the issue here really is that there's a dependency conflict. What can we do this without Serolog? Can we handle all of our logging without Serolog? And I'm like, I think we can. And I can't take credit for this. I kind of just said, I think that's a great idea. We should go for it, and gave Justin the thumbs up on hey, I will totally shepherd in PR for this. We'll get it tested. We'll get it through preview. And you know what? Miracles happen. Justin did exactly that. PowerShell editor services, the LSP server underneath, doesn't depend on Serolog anymore. Since getting the stable extension out, anybody who's used the stable extension has been able to report, hey, yeah, those modules I was having all those loading conflicts with, working again. And it's not like a temporary fix. It's gone as best we can. Searlog is completely gone. We don't depend on it. It doesn't get brought in. We've really minimized that dependency surface. And so I'm super proud of that. Really thank you to Justin for being such the awesome community member that he is. We also had, a few other bugs get fixed, especially like around end of support for older versions of PowerShell. As you probably all know, PowerShell 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3 have pretty much met their end of support lifecycle, and so we've removed like support for them in the extension. And that happened, I think, one stable version ago, but what I didn't do was improve the messaging around it. So we actually have a much better messaging around it. Hey, you loaded this up, you're trying to load it with a version of PowerShell that is not going to work in. We actually now detect that and tell you, hey, you need to go update to at least 7.4, which is great because that's an LTS, so you can just keep on using that. But I do just want to show one other amazing thing from Justin. Maybe he should run this for a little bit. If he's here, I should at least say hi.
No, I'm here. You're doing great,
extension
Andy.
categories. You want to? Well, I was just going to show that we've got settings categories in the extension. This was a nice little feature improvement. You can actually click through. These are all in different categories around the extension. You've got your terminal settings, you've got your pester settings, you've got your developer settings, and your formatting settings. It was just a nice little quality of life thing that like VS Code lit up, and Justin was like, hey, we can just do this. And we got it in. Great little improvements. Love seeing this. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had to share here. Thanks to people who keep testing the preview when it's out and for using the PowerShell extension as a whole. File those bugs. We do get to them. We've got a lot of snippets fixed too lately from people. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you, Justin. Well, I see we are right at an hour from when we started. So thank you very much. I'd say let's go ahead and wrap up. And thank you everyone for joining. Great feedback as always. Definitely always a spirited discussion, and appreciate everybody attending.
Very quick one. On March 11th, I've been saying this to myself for like the last 2 weeks. I'm going to go into depth about some of the feature set of GitHub for issue management, traction, and other things that you can get basically for free with the platform. I will put out a link on Twitter and into the chat once I've got the meeting set up, but it's going to be part of a monthly series on the second Tuesday of the month, which is an interesting day to pick because that's obviously when everybody goes, here you go, here's all your vulnerabilities. So it'll be an interesting day every month for the rest of the year is my plan.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool, Ryan. Thank you. Always awesome for more content to help everyone benefit each other.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, why don't we go ahead and wrap up for the day, and we'll see everyone next time.